Hello, Szara here. I'm here to have another conversation for the sake of ourselves. So today's conversation is a continuation of the conversations we've been having, and it can be a standalone conversation as well. So far we've been talking about this idea of, inviting you into having a really fantastic, great, even sacred and reverent relationship with yourself. What would that be like? What would it be like to treat yourself great? What would it be like to be a got your back best friend? Today, I want to talk about the idea of, it's a continuation on top of that, because if you are a got your back best friend, one of the first places you might look is to take a look at your life and say, am I investing in myself in my life? Am I including myself, my wants, my desires, my interests, my joy, my happiness, the stuff that matters to me? Does it get any time and attention? The stuff that matters to me, is it included in the day-to-day? Is it included in the overall? Pretty often, generally speaking, we live in a certain kind of society and system. It's pretty, go, go, go. It has a lot of demands on us. We can have our attention being pulled in many, many ways. We can get pretty tired and burnt out some of the times. We have multiple responsibilities. We have multiple things we are looking after and taking care of. And it can be really tricky to navigate all the different things that seem like it's all coming at us, or wanting something of us, or needing something of us, or, some requirement for us to show up here, here, and here, to the point where we're really stretched thin. We don't have a lot of room in our bandwidth. And so it can be really easy to, just get by, to just each day become like almost a survival game. Can I get through it? You get to the end of the day and it's like, oh, thank goodness that's done. And, you do whatever you do to unwind and relax, to hopefully get enough sleep and rest so that tomorrow can be another day to do another survival game. And to a degree, sometimes that's required. I don't want to dismiss the need for that. Like, meet yourself right where you are. Like, wherever you are, there you are. You have whatever responsibilities you have in your life. You have the stuff that you need to take care of. You do have real demands that are really valid, and real responsibilities that do really require something of you. Many of you might have children. Like, they're, you can't not show up to taking care of them. There'll be a really big impact. That's just, that's not okay to be with. So this isn't to step over that, but this is to also take a look at, are you including yourself? Are you taking some of your time, energy, and effort to put towards investing in yourself, your own satisfaction and fulfillment, your own livelihood, your own aliveness and vitality, your own health and well-being? Do you take time to invest in getting to know yourself? I don't know about you, but here I am, about to be 49 this summer, and I'm still baffled and surprised at how often I learn new things about myself. I learn new patterns I've either had, or different interests that I didn't know I had, or something that I haven't really given myself permission to explore, that once I give permission, it's like, wow, I didn't even realize that this was something that I loved and that I like and I enjoy and I want to do more of. Do we take the time and gift ourselves our energy, our time, our interest in our investment? Do we invest in ourselves to get to know ourselves, to get related to ourselves, to get to understand ourselves, to get to, know what we love, what we like, what we enjoy, what we want to do? At the end of the day, this is your life. At the end of the day, you will have an end of the day in this meat sack body of yours. You are going to have an end of the day where, you take a look and, did you live a life you enjoyed? Did you get to fulfill on the things that mattered to you? Are you happy with how you spent your time, energy, and effort? Are you satisfied? Did it bring you value? Are you fulfilled? At the end of the day, you will have that moment. You will have taking a look. And I like to use, this kind of sounds morbid, but for me, it's a tool that I love. I like to use death as a dear friend. I often think, okay, if I was on my deathbed, if this was the last day, if this was the last year, if this was the last month of my life, am I happy with where I am and who I am and how I treat myself and how I show up in my life? Am I satisfied with what I've accomplished and what I've done? Am I, is there something that I would be severely disappointed if I didn't, go and gift myself some time towards pursuing something that really mattered to me. I think taking a moment to take a look and take stock of yourself in your life and where you're going, where you're headed, and where you've come from is really valuable. So, today's conversation is really about, do you take the time to be interested and invested in yourself? Do you include yourself in your day-to-day? Do you include yourself in what matters and what is fulfilling and what brings joy? Do you take some time to get to understand and relate to yourself? So those are some starting point questions. And then it's like, well, what does that even look like? What does it look like to include myself? What does it look like to be invested in myself? And, you'll hear me say it a lot, time, energy, and effort. It's the one thing we have, whatever we put our time, energy, and effort to, our attention, our focus is going to flourish or grow, or at least have the potential of flourishing and growing. It's what's getting our energy. It's our time, energy, and effort. It's a tunnel of this is where my energy is going to go. This is what I'm going to tend. This is what I'm going to keep in my peripheral. This is what I'm going to keep, my eye on the prize. And this is what I'm deeming is important. And we actually say what we deem as important. And as soon as we declare and deem something as importance, it has a certain value to us. It then gets given some allotment of our time, energy, and effort. It gets given some kind of care and regard for it mattering or being important, and, having some awareness around it. By saying something matters and is important to you, you're saying, well, this is going to have some kind of ongoing awareness because you're emotionally connected to something being important to you. And that, there's a whole biological system response of what it does to cue up your brain to bring it into the forefront so that it does get your time, energy, and attention. And anything that does, I'm sure you can look in your life, the things that you say matter to you, are you showing up like it matters to you? It can be really easy sometimes to say, oh yeah, this, that person matters to me, or that job matters to me, or that hobby of mine matters to me. But if you really take a look, are you giving it any time, energy, or effort? Because if you're not giving it any time, energy, or effort, you're not giving it any attention, you're not giving it any awareness, is it important to you? Is it actually in form showing up as any value or importance? Because the things that are valuable and important, really do deserve your time, energy, and effort. That is how you can discern where to put your energy. That's how you can discern where to put that time and effort. As a parent, you can look, if your children are important to you, it's a great place to look, because a lot of us as parents would be like, of course, what are some of the most important things to me? Oh, my kids are important. Okay, great. Now, if your kids are important, take a look. How do they show up in your life important? Where do they show up in your bandwidth? Where do they show up in your energy? Where do they show up in your schedule? Where do they show up in your time? You can take a look. Do you spend time with them? Do you spend time thinking about them? Do you spend time creating something about it? Do you have some intentions of what you are wanting to have in that relationship? Are you putting, again, time, energy, and effort into and investing into your children? And a lot of us do, just do it just naturally. And we don't even notice. Sometimes it's like we can say, oh, I'm not spending as much time, energy, and effort on my children, but I do know they're important. But actually, if you do get really honest and take stock, you working at your job to earn a certain income is providing a financial base for your children or for your family. So that is showing up to a level of importance, but it is always great, in my opinion, to take some form of stock. I say, this is important. Is my life a reflection of the level of importance it has? Is it getting honored? Is it getting valued for the level of importance I say that part of my life has to me? Because the bottom line, you are the driver of your life. You're the one that's sitting there, and you get to say what is important to you, what's not important to you, what do you value, what don't you value, what are you wanting to spend your time on? And in my opinion, time is one of our most precious commodities, our time, energy, and effort. That is such a precious commodity, like money is money, and money, again, time, it takes time, energy, and effort to earn money. So money can often be equated for value, but really, if you break down money is time, energy, and effort. So, the things that are important to us, are we spending our time, energy, and effort on it? Is it included in taking a look? And then it's great to look like, okay, there can be a lot of outward things that are important. Like, maybe certain people in your life are important. Your partner or spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend or person. Maybe your friends are important to you. Maybe your family is important to you. Maybe your children are important to you. Maybe your community is important to you. Maybe, you can go on and on and on. Maybe your job is important to you. Maybe your career is important to you. Maybe learning is important to you. Maybe learning a new skill is important to you, or a sport or a hobby or something you make or something you do. Those things can be really important to you. And all of that is really great. Like, it's great to have these outward things that are important to us. But I want to invite, it really comes back to a very first initial spot of, are you important to you? Are you, your very being, essence, and nature, and who you are, your fulfillment, your joy, your happiness, your livelihood, your vitality, your health, and your well-being, your life, this time on this planet. Is this important to you? Are you important to yourself? Are you investing into yourself? Are you including yourself? Are you including what really matters to you? And have you stopped to take a look? A lot of the times, the things that we put value on and importance on, again, we're the driver of it. We're in the driver's seat, so we get to say what we're putting importance and value on. I do recommend, though, pausing and taking stock. Am I saying this is important to me, or am I saying this should be important to me? Is this something society deems should be important to me? Is this something my family has deemed should be important to me? Is this something I have deemed should be important because it's something I should be or should do? Shoulds are interesting. We can get really stuck in kind of a should world. And I'm inviting you to just take a look past that. And it takes something to build a relationship with yourself so that you can even discern that. You can even start to tell, oh, am I doing that for myself? Really? Because I'm lit up about that? Because I really value that? Because I really want that? Or am I doing that for some other reason, to either look good or to be accepted, or because I should, or that's the right thing to do, or that's the morally correct thing to do, or that's required, or because I have to? There's a layer of that you get to interact with, and you can keep going, and you can still have a whole bunch of satisfaction and success in your life, even if you come from some shoulds inside of what you're out to create for yourself. And there's a real opportunity to pause and reflect, to take stock, and to take time to really just get to know yourself, and that's part of this idea of, if you are a dear friend to yourself, if you're saying that you're important, if you're saying that you matter, if you're saying that your livelihood matters, if you're saying that, this life matters to you and your time here matters to you, it's really worthwhile to get highly related to yourself and to build a really fantastic relationship with yourself where you get to know yourself and understand when you first meet yourself and you first start building a relationship with yourself, you might occur a bit foreign to yourself. You might not fully understand yourself. You might get frustrated with yourself and annoyed with yourself. You might, judge yourself. You might be hard on yourself. There's all kinds of things that might show up as soon as you start having a really, as soon as you say having a great relationship is important to you. A bunch of not great things might show up for you to navigate through so that you can start to understand yourself and learn yourself and see what your true values are and what really does actually matter to you. What are your real commitments? What's your heart of hearts say to you? What does your being in essence call for? What does inspire you and light you up? Where does your interest pull you forward? As you get to know yourself, you can start to get to know your body cues. Like what feels really great in your body? What feels really alive and vital? What feels really fresh? What feels really invitational? In contrast to that, what feels really heavy? What feels really burdened? What feels really chaotic and dysregulated? As you start to get to know yourself and your body and your cues, you get to realize you actually have this really fantastic navigation system that you have. You have these body cues and sensations that can really navigate your way of understanding and getting related to yourself. You have kind of you do have an emotional response system. You have this whole emotion response system that gives you really great information about what matters to you and about what's important to you. So this idea of, having this really great relationship with yourself, saying that you're worth it, saying that you matter, saying that you're going to include yourself and that your joy, satisfaction, happiness, fulfillment actually kind of matters and it's worthwhile investment. It's in my opinion, one of your most worthwhile investments that you can make is into this relationship with yourself and that you matter. Like this is your life. You're creating it. And the energy, time, and effort you put in is what will pay you dividends in the kind of experience of your life that you're after. Knowing yourself as somebody who has the power to create their life. Now, when I say that, it's not that you can control all the circumstances of your life. Life is going to get lifey. Life is going to happen. The curveballs are going to happen and be thrown at you. But if you have set that these certain things are important to you, you are actually taking time, energy, and effort and investing that time, energy, and effort into what's important, which gives you a great feedback loop of, enjoyment. It has a certain way and experience of your state and your being that, I personally find that the more I invest in the stuff that brings me joy and things that bring me fulfillment, the more resilience I have in life for when life gets lifey and when life does happen. It's okay, these are some things happening to my life. They're things that, I didn't expect. I don't really love. I don't really want to experience. I'm not getting a lot of joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment maybe from them. But I do also have at the same time things that are bringing me joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. I am still investing time, energy, and effort in the things that do matter to me, the things that do fill me up so that my cup, I guess, is full enough or is getting filled ongoingly by myself so that even when, circumstances happen, I know I can still have enjoyment in my life, even in the face of crappy stuff that might show up and might happen. I can still, not be taken out by it or not be consumed by it for the most part. And again, stuff happens where, things in our life can be really overtaking, and understandably so. There's some big moments that can happen in life with important relationships and important things that matter to us. And we can be really up against some tough circumstances that do require something of us and that does have us pause and does have us deal and reel from something. But the more often you are investing into your joy and satisfaction and fulfillment, the more often you can realize that you can invest into your joy, satisfaction, fulfillment, that you actually have a say in the amount of enjoyment you have in your life. You actually have a say in the kind of experiences you're having in your life. You can't always have a say in the events that are happening in your life, but you can have a say in the experience that you're having in your life. You can feel still in the driver's seat of your life. Like, you get to actually say what your overarching state of being will be, what your overarching, value of your life and commitments are in your life. So, there's a lot of side benefits for when you're investing in your joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. It gives you a level of resiliency. It gives you a level of, again, it pays dividends. It gives you a level of grounding and satisfaction. It has you also know that you're showing up for yourself and you're including yourself and that you do matter. And you start to actually make choices in your life differently, is what I found for myself. Is the more I said that, I mattered and my satisfaction mattered and my joy mattered, you start making your choices differently, because, then when presented with option A or option B, you're actually filtering it through, what does that do for my joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment? Like, you're actually including that as a variable for you to consider. And are you a yes or are you a no? And if you're saying that, I'm out to have, my time, energy, and effort invested into my enjoyment and my fulfillment as a high priority level, really as a high priority level, it really does give you a filter of how you're making your choices and how you're navigating yourself. Like, it really does become a compass that you're directing your life with, to say, my life is directed by the inclusion of my joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. And that matters to me, and my life gets to get directed around that. Now, it doesn't have to get dominated by that. At times there's still going to be things that, I'm going to do that I'm not going to necessarily have the immediate feeling of joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. But knowing that I'm showing up to my responsibilities, or knowing that I'm showing up to my commitments and what matters, gives me joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. So in the end, I'm actually, even when I'm not getting the immediate feedback of joy, satisfaction, fulfillment, because I know my life is oriented around that. Even when I'm doing the hard stuff, or the things that, I might not want to do, or I'm putting the self-discipline in to do, I really do get it's an investment towards my joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. It's an investment into myself. It's an investment into my future self and my future life. And it makes it all really worthwhile all of a sudden. And as soon as things become worthwhile, you want to show up, and that's, I guess, even points to our livelihood and vitality. Like, when we're sitting there doing things in life and we're making ourselves show up to something because we should, because we're supposed to, because it's our job to, because society says to, our family said to, because this is just how it is, this is how it's supposed to be. What does that feel like? What does that feel like in your body? What does that feel like in your mind, in your heart, in your being? Like, what does that feel like? Like, I know for me, I really struggle when it's a supposed to or a have to. It's like, and I'm not energetically aligned with it or emotionally connected to it. It's a real forcing of myself to show up and to do something. And it really takes an extra amount of almost pain and suffering that goes along, like a scoop of pain and suffering that goes along with my energy and effort to get it done. It's like, it's hard. There's a lot of resistance. It's up against something. It's like I'm going through sludge. It's lots of work. You're not necessarily getting a lot of accomplishment or feeling of accomplishment. There's a lot of residual, emotions around resistance, like frustration, resent, anger, all kinds of different emotions can come up when we're also doing something that we're actually not really a yes to be doing. It can cause a lot of pain in our physical body and our mental body and our emotional body and our spiritual body. It can cause a lot of kind of pain and suffering, this resistance. And so, when we're not including a filter of what brings me joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment in the choices that I'm doing, we usually end up working pretty hard. And who's the kind of person you show up as when you're working hard? Like, great. Then what kind of energy, effort, and time do you get for yourself or your livelihood or your joy? You're usually just wiped out, past the point of, your bandwidth is just past capacity. You're generally, I don't know, most of us go pretty grumpy, pretty like protective of our energy, pretty distant, pretty frustrated. It does not generally build connection between people, friends, coworkers, the people in your life. Usually then we're even outputting our negative energy just because of this level of frustration, because we've gone past what really honestly works for us in our joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. And so there can be a real cost on our life, a real effect and an impact when we're not including our joy, satisfaction, fulfillment. Our favorite self doesn't get to show up. Our best self, our favorite self, our highest self doesn't really get the chance to show up. We don't really get a chance to know ourselves. We don't really get a chance to know what it feels like to flourish and to thrive, and even get to know who our favorite self is. We don't really get a lot of evidence of that person being in existence because we're just too tired and we're too frustrated. You don't often get an accomplishment loop that you want because you're not getting the, accomplishment feedback cycle happening, and you're not getting all of those great biochemicals hitting in the same way. You're actually getting kind of just burnt out, where then you want to usually turn to different coping mechanisms to just get by and get through and survive. So it's like we have these two ways we could operate. You could operate from I should, I need to, I have to, that's all that there is, I got to survive. Or you can operate from, I'm choosing this. This is my joy, satisfaction, fulfillment. This matters to me, and this is what I want. And it's two very different ways of working with your day-to-day living, and two very different experiences of what you're going to have in your body, your mind, your emotions, and your being. So, just even that in itself, the two type of ways it feels like in your body and in your being, makes it a worthwhile investment to invest in your joy, satisfaction, fulfillment. Because, oh my gosh, it feels so great when moment to moment throughout your day, you're actually feeling freer in your body, and freer in your mind, and freer in your emotions, and freer in your being. You're actually getting to have a feedback loop of accomplishment or creativity or fun or enjoyment. And, not to say it's perfect. You're still, can get tired. You can still get sick. You can still have stuff happen to you. But again, there's a level of resilience that goes with it, because you know that your joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment is just there waiting for you at any moment for you to step into and invest into. So you spending your time, energy, and effort on your satisfaction, enjoyment, and fulfillment is a really worthwhile investment, is the point of this whole entire conversation. Taking the time, energy, and effort and putting that attention, awareness, and focus on saying, you matter, what's important to you matters, and including that into your day-to-day existence, including that into how you show up and live life, including that into how you spend your time, including that into how you spend your energy, including putting attention and awareness to that, to set yourself up powerfully to succeed in that.